This is one of multiple videos in my WSL version 2 series. In this video, I'm going to show you some tips and tricks. I'm going to show you as an example how to use the Microsoft Windows terminal. You can open up multiple shells to various Linux operating systems running within WSL version 2. I'll also show you some additional tips and tricks in this video. So as an example, how to open Linux files from within Windows, or how to access Windows files from within Linux. Use the menu below this video if you want to jump to a specific topic. So if you're not interested in the Windows terminal, but you just want to see how to open Linux files within Windows, then use the menu to jump to that topic. Okay, so let's get started. Microsoft have released a Windows terminal that makes it a lot easier to work with multiple consoles. So I'm going to go to the Microsoft Store and I'm going to search for the Windows terminal. And here it is. So I'm going to click on that. And I'm going to click Get. And then I'm going to click Install to install the Windows terminal on my computer. It's not a very big installation. You can see it's about 6 meg. So quite a small installation. And I'm going to click Launch to launch the Windows terminal. What I've got here is a Windows Powershell. So if I type WSL-L-V as an example, I can see that I've got an Ubuntu 20.04 virtual machine running. I can see that the Docker desktop is running. I can see that 18.04 is stopped as an example, and Ubuntu has stopped. But notice here, I can click on this little down arrow, and I can open a command prompt. This is the classic command prompt that's been around for many, many years. So as an example, ipconfig shows me the IP address of my computer. So I've got PowerShell running here. I've got a command prompt running here. But what I can now do is start an Ubuntu 20.04 prompt. So lsb_release -a shows me that I've got Ubuntu 20.04 in this tab. Drop this down. Let's start an 18.04 tab. So lsb_release-a. I've got PowerShell. I've got a command prompt. I've got an Ubuntu virtual machine, in this case 20.04 running, and I've got 18.04 running. And what I could do now as an example is go into my Docker WSL integration, and I could enable Docker on various virtual machines, including the 18.04 virtual machine. Click Apply and Restart to apply those changes. Go back into my Windows terminal. In my 18.04 virtual machine, I could type Docker run hello world. I'm told hello from Docker. Everything seems to be working right. What I can do now is use this command to run an Ubuntu shell. So lsb_release-a, that command doesn't work. So let's install this apt update to update my references. What I'm doing now is running, hopefully, a 20.04 Ubuntu within 18.04. So I'll install that software quickly. Clear the screen. So lsb_release-a. Notice I'm running Ubuntu 20.04 within Docker. When I type exit and use that command again, notice I'm running Ubuntu 18.04. So in this example, I'm running Ubuntu 20.04 in a Docker container within an 18.04 virtual machine, which is running within Windows. This is fantastic. I can even open an Azure Cloud Shell here and log into Azure, log into my various virtual machines running within WSL version 2, open up a command prompt, open up PowerShell, etc. This is a fantastic development from Microsoft. You can run a whole bunch of terminals, but you can also change the settings. So if you click on the little down arrow and go to settings, you can change the fonts, you can change a whole bunch of options within Windows Terminal. If you're interested, I'll create a separate video on Windows Terminal. Let me know if you're interested in me doing that. I'll show you how to change a lot of the schema settings and a lot of the options here. But notice you can have different profiles. One for Windows PowerShell as an example, one for CMD or the command prompt, one for the different virtual machines that we're running within WSL version 2, etc. So Windows Terminal is fantastic, great application. But what I want to show you now are some tips and tricks with regards to WSL version 2. So this is not a Windows Terminal option. This is just part of WSL version 2. So one of the options, and let me go back to home, in this 2004 LTS virtual machine, is I can access files in Windows from within Linux. So at the moment, pwd once again shows me that I'm in my home directory. But if I go cd root, notice I'm in the root directory. If I go to mount ls, I can see the C drive. This is the C drive on my Windows computer. So as an example, if I go to C drive, there are the files on my C drive in Windows. So back in my Ubuntu shell, I'll go cdc and type ls, and what you'll notice is I have these files listed. Those are the files on my C drive. I'll use sudo here so that I can use root privileges. So sudo ls, put my password in. Now after I've put in my password, notice I can see all the directories on my C drive. So those are the directories on my C drive. And I could also do something like find grep, and let's just grep for temp as an example. And notice I'm able to use the Linux commands on Windows. So I'll just stop that for a second. Now I'm getting permission denied because I need to use sudo. And let's simply search for devlist.txt. So devlist.txt to make it simpler. And as you can see, it's trying to find the files, but it has found the one file here. So scrolling up, notice it did find devlist.txt in the root directory. Now, in the same way that you can use Linux to look at the C drive or other drives on a Windows computer, you can use Explorer to explore the Linux directory. So I'll type explorer dot, and I need to type exe dot to run the Windows application. And what it's done now is opened up Windows Explorer, and I'm looking at the WSL hard drive for Ubuntu 2004. And what I can see here are the files on my Linux virtual machine. So ls, as an example, shows me those two files, xe.py and xe2.py. And I can see something similar here in Explorer. And what I could do as an example is open these files in Visual Studio Code as an example. So I've opened xe.py in Visual Studio Code. What I'll do is cat that file here so that you can see what's in the file. Notice there are two print statements at the end. So what I'll do is delete the extra print statement and go File, Save to save the file. And back in Linux, if I read that file, notice the second print statement has been removed. I could say something here like print hello from Windows and go File, Save to save the file. And if I cat that again in Linux, notice there's the changed file. So basically, Explorer allows me to explore files on the Linux subsystem using a familiar Windows application. What you can also do is use VSCode to open files directly. So I can say code.exe, xe.py to open that file. In this case, it's actually just code. So code, and I'm going to open xe.py. And what that does is start VSCode in Windows, and it opens that file directly from within Windows. So I'm opening a file on the Linux subsystem from within Windows. And I did that directly, or you could just use Explorer to do that. So you might prefer using Explorer to view the Linux virtual machine hard drive. So as you can see, there's very tight integration between Linux and Windows using the Windows subsystem for Linux, so WSL version 2. Fantastic options available now if you use Windows as your primary operating system to develop on Linux, use Linux commands, learn Linux, etc. The Windows Terminal is also a fantastic application. I'm really glad to see how Microsoft have changed their ways and are using a lot of Linux technologies as part of Windows. Okay, so very long video, but hopefully you've learned something. I'm David Bombal, and I want to wish you all the very best.